This portion of the news brought to you by McDonald's. McDonald's, I'm loving it.
It's been a week now since that mass shooting in Fox Hill, which left 4 people dead and several others injured.
The horrific turn of events has left a sour taste in the hearts and minds of many Fox Hillians who, despite their fear of crime, are trying to pick up the pieces and regroup.
LaDawn Davis visited the community today to speak to officials of urban renewal about the impact, what residents are saying, and where they go from here.
The Fox Hill community appeared peaceful on Friday morning. It could be an indication that residents are trying to get back to normal after that massive shooting which took the lives of 4 people and injured 7 others on Freedom Park a week ago. Officer in charge of the Fox Hill Urban Renewal, Inspector Antonio Monroe, says that prayer vigil on Sunday night brought some comfort to residents and grieving family members who are trying to cope with this great loss. But while the tragedy is still fresh, Monroe says counseling sessions are being offered to those who need it.
Respect the visitation of the victims' relatives, and I know that Dr. Allen was in Fox Hill 2 days, I think Saturday and Sunday. He would have had some counseling session with those in the park. He did a walkabout in the through the community, speaking with persons who were in the park during the time. I know that he did a session with the young people of Fox Hill Congos, a session at the San Luis Primary School.
Social worker Fane Babb says this tragic incident has had a tremendous impact on residents who still do not feel safe in their environment.
Most of the residents are saying that it has them feeling very down and depressed, because those people that were killed, they were innocent people. So it has the whole community feeling down and depressed. Even myself. I've spoken to all the victim's mother, the deceased parents and family, and I'm letting them know that if they need any assistance with counseling or burial assistance, I'm here for them.
Monroe says they plan to beef up patrols in the area to keep peace on the streets in Fox Hill. The officers are also encouraging residents to continue to support the police in their efforts to fight the war on crime. LaDawn Davis, ZNS Network News.
Well, the Attorney General says a review of the Bail Act is underway in response to rising concerns about persons committing crime while awaiting trial on the outside. Our Fern Carey has that.
A review of the Bail Act is currently underway due to rising concerns from the public about persons committing serious offenses while on bail. Minister of State for Legal Affairs Damian Gomez says that review will include putting measures in place to monitor more efficiently the conditions imposed when bail is granted.
Will be codifying the conditions so that when a judge grants bail, unless he or she specifically gives an order deviating from the stated conditions in the statute, the police can rely on the statute and the conditions set out to enforce the conditions. So if they see, for instance, a person who is charged and granted bail out in the company of someone else who is also on bail, they can pick the 2 of them up.
Now, although the Bail Act is being reviewed, the Attorney General made it clear that judges will have the final say on whether or not to grant bail to persons accused of serious crimes.
The discretion to grant bail or not rests with the judge. So even though the law will provide for the circumstances where bail can legislatively be granted or not, the discretion at the end of the day, whether or not to grant bail, is a matter for the judge. It is the court that agrees that a person should be given bail or denied bail. Nobody else has that power.
The Attorney General noted that senior prosecutors, including the Director of Public Prosecutions, will also be in the forefront of prosecuting cases this year.
That is going to be increased this year. She and the deputies will routinely be in trials. They are going to lead this battle to take back our streets by assuring that swift justice is seen and felt in this Bahama land. that we restore order and a confidence in the legal system.
Fern Carey, ZNS Network News.
The parliamentary secretary in the office of the Prime Minister, Renato Curry, is responding to this week's fire in the Mud community in Abaco.
Now, he told ZNS News today about the concerns which have lingered over shanty towns for decades and how the government is looking to address them.
As you know, the area affected was private property. We discovered that it was owned by a gentleman, a resident out of Marshava, and so we are seeking now to meet with him to have him secure the property. As you know, the environmental health agents had also inspected the property and it's really deemed it an unsafe area for rebuilding. The persons who are building in these areas are not adhering to the building codes.
Now, Mr. Curry adds that he's looking to have the relevant agencies move in to conduct assessments.
In the Bahamas that govern all of us, and we cannot turn a blind eye to the law. Of course, you know, in a devastation like this one, we always, the first approach is always humanitarian efforts to assist where we can. But when it comes to the building codes, when it comes to the environmental standards, the public at large must be protected. And so, of course, we would take all precautious measures to make sure that that's the case.
Crime in the country is also presenting a challenge for those in the medical profession who are left attempting to save the lives of the large number of victims of crime for injuries related to criminal activity. According to Dr. Dwayne Sands, who serves as a consultant surgeon actively involved in trauma, the numbers are increasing by the day.
In any given year, we will see more than 200 gunshot victims, many hundreds of stabbings, and many thousands of assaults. And this has been the case for more than the last decade. What has not been the case has been the number of shootings. And so when we look at the Bahamas, it has been a very violent country for a very long time. Bahamians have fooled themselves into believing that it was no big deal because not too many people were dying. And since the trauma teams and the hospital in particular, Princess Margaret Hospital, more so than Naran, more so than Doctors Hospital, have been standing in the gap to reduce the number of people that die from serious injuries, violence, trauma.
Now, Sands noted that many of the victims who the doctors have to pay attention to are black young men and women who have lived a life of crime, but as doctors, nonetheless, their priority is saving lives. The rising number of crime-related injuries, he says, causes other medical departments to suffer.
And so the net effect of all this violence and trauma is that it negatively impacts the ability to deliver care to the average ordinary patient. And so when Susie Smith, John Brown is in the emergency room because they have chest pain or because their diabetes is under control, they find that they got to wait for days and days and days. And it becomes very hard for Bahamians to understand that this we have created. And so if we are going to, as we must, deal with the victims of violent trauma, then we either have to accept that everybody pays the price for it in terms of waiting times, in terms of no ICU beds, in terms of no medications, etc., or we are going to have to fund it.
Coming up, see how tourists on Exuma celebrate the New Year.
And then in sports, a Rhodes Scholar gives up his dream to help others with theirs. We'll explain in ZNS Total Sports. You're watching The Bahamas Tonight.
This portion of the news was brought to you by McDonald's. McDonald's, I'm loving it.
As the new year rolled in, we saw a slowdown in market activity, which is typical for this time of year. Only a few shares traded on the local market, with a volume of 50,600 shares exchanging hands. We have also seen a new 52-week high in Commonwealth Bank shares, now trading at $6.91. This should please shareholders who have watched the stock price decline over the past few quarters. Finco ended its year with a buying for shareholders by paying an ordinary and extraordinary dividend payment of 5 cents per share. International markets are beginning to show signs of growth these days, but nowhere more than in the U.S. market, where the S&P 500 index ended the year with a whopping 29.6% return for the year. This, along with a strengthening housing market, seemed to signal that the economic recovery in the U.S. could continue into 2014. So as we step into this new year, why don't you let Royal Fidelity's professionals help you make wise and profitable investment decisions? If you have questions about the securities you own right now, or would like to start a new investment portfolio, give us a call today. For more information, visit our website at royalfidelity.com. This has been your Royal Fidelity Weekly Market Wrap. Wishing you a Happy New Year. I'm Sherelle Conliffe.